The Boise River is just one example of the problems associated with 6 years of drought. Throughout the West, we've all learned a very painful lesson. Water is a very precious resource. But this painful lesson is being transformed into a world of discovery by a handful of bright high school students in Cascade, Idaho. A very special science teacher is using a troubled reservoir to teach lessons in biology, chemistry, and physics, and lessons about life.
Okay, you can put your stuff down here. In autumn, your groups get your water sample right off here. Now, when you go down there to wade, be real careful, check the depth and everything. Don't fall off over your head or anything.
The kids call him Mr. K.
Go ahead.
He appears to be the classic absent-minded professor, rambling about and joking with the students. But don't be deceived. His slow, easy manner is that of a person very comfortable with himself, one who has made the right choices in life. This is a teacher with the gift.
So are we getting pH readings?
Yeah, we got a 7.89.
Oh, that's pretty good.
That's higher than we've ever got before.
The first thing that strikes you about Clint Kennedy's advanced biology class is a sense of eagerness, the wonderful feeling that here is a group of kids excited about learning, ready to explore with unbridled curiosity the mysteries of the scientific world.
And right now we just discovered that the lake just had a turnover because all the temperature in the lake is about 4 degrees, so we just witnessed a turnover. A turnover just means that doesn't literally mean turnover, it just means that all the layers in the lake have reached one layer of density.
Junior Stephanie Schutte goes on to explain such things as stratification layers and maximum density, sounding much like the future scientist she plans to be. But the goal of this class goes beyond studying the chemical, physical, and biological makeup of the lake. These students have undertaken a bigger project. The young scientists have entered a national contest called the Saco Youth Challenge. The assignment is to study a local environmental problem and propose a solution to it. For their project, the class has chosen to research ways to improve water quality in Cascade Reservoir, a daunting problem that has frustrated the community for years.
I think what surprised me most about this is the fact that our lake has so many problems that we really didn't know about. We didn't know how much algae there was necessarily other than what we saw. We didn't know the test levels, and we didn't know a lot of the technical numbers and stuff.
This is the phosphate test. We test it because of all the cattle around here, and if it's high phosphate level, that means we're getting a lot of irrigation and sewage within the lake. So this is one of our major contributors to our project.
We put chemicals in here to test for nitrates, and you stick it in this one, and then you take a clear sample and you put it in here, and then you just turn this wheel until the colors match, and it'll give you a reading for how much nitrate is in the lake.
This excursion is just one of several trips into the field to study the lake. Samples are gathered at various locations and at different depths. The young researchers discovered that the overabundance of algae is partially a result of agricultural practices that deposit phosphates into the reservoir. Too much algae robs oxygen from the water, causing fish and wildlife to suffer. But the next lesson the students learn goes beyond science and into the world of politics and compromise. Lessons on life.
What I ask my students to do is to think. And to think, you have to be presented with all sides of an issue. You can't take economics out of an environmental issue and solve it. You can't take politics out of it and solve it. You have to meet everybody's needs. And that's been one of my goals.
Mr. K has invited a wide spectrum of folks to speak to the class, ranging from representatives of the Forest Service and Department of Environmental Quality to the agricultural community and area developers. For these young people, it is a wonderful introduction to the skills of gathering information, negotiating compromise, and weighing solutions.
We didn't know anything about the lake or our surroundings. We were really quite oblivious to it, and now we understand the problems and what needs to be done, and we understand the complexity of the problem. We understand why they can't just solve it. We know now that you can't just solve things that quickly. You have to put some time into it and take into account all the agencies and everybody that's involved.
Returning to the lab, the students run their water samples through another series of tests, using scientific terminology that most of us never learned or have long forgotten.
If you know your wavelength, you can set it, and then you can go ahead and test your transmittance or absorbance.
The young scientists perform the test using equipment with intimidating names like spectrophotometer, pipettes, and a new field computer called the Vernier Computer Interface. On the other side of the room, beakers are filled from a tank of lake water. A whole new world of tiny water organisms opens up under the microscopes. Most of the young people in this class will graduate from high school with 5 sciences and 4 math courses, well above the national average. The small community of Cascade strongly supports education, and as a result, the school has reaped some impressive awards. In 1990, the U.S. Department of Education named it one of the top schools in the nation. Last year, Red Book magazine rated Cascade High School as the best in Idaho. Not bad for a town of 800. But the real key is people.
Mr. K, he makes this very interesting for us. He makes us feel really important, and I really believe that all science teachers should put an idea like this into young minds that they can help out in the environment. And it's easier than you think as long as you have an open mind about it, and if a teacher can make it interesting.
For Clint Kennedy, the goal is to teach a lesson that goes beyond the textbooks and into something much more intrinsic, a lesson about life.
I want them to be able to solve problems. I want them to know what it takes to approach a problem and what it takes to actually be able to solve any kind of life problem.
This from a man who seems to have made the right choices in his life. This from a teacher with the gift.
I think when I came from being a logger to start teaching, I was pretty worried about how I would interact with high school age kids. And it's been a lot better than I ever thought it would be. It really has been. And that's certainly what keeps me teaching. The satisfaction to watch these kids develop is, it's great. It's great.